Today's episode of Miguelito To Toe is different. There is no fight prediction today, no pound for pound rankings, no debate about who would win. Today we're talking about a fighter who became much more than a boxer. Today we remember Prichard Digget Colon. It is with a heavy heart that I dedicate this entire episode to Prichard, who has passed away at the age of 33. Rest in peace, Prichard, and to his family, especially his parents, Richard and Nieves Colon. This episode is for you too. Before the tragedy, Prichard Colon was a young fighter with a tremendous future ahead of him. He was born September 19, 1992, and represented Puerto Rico as an amateur before turning professional in 2013. Inside the ring, he was aggressive, confident, and exciting. He wasn't just fighting to win, he was building a career that many people believed could take him to the highest levels of boxing. By October 2015, Prichard was undefeated as a professional. He was only 23 years old. His future was ahead of him. Then came October 17, 2015. Prichard Collins stepped into the ring against Terrell Williams. What happened during the fight has been discussed for years. There were repeated complaints about punches to the back of Prichard's head. There was controversy surrounding the officiating. And after the fight, something was terribly wrong. Prichard collapsed. He had suffered a severe brain injury. Doctors discovered a brain bleed. He underwent emergency surgery. And the young boxer who had entered that ring, dreaming about becoming a world champion, was suddenly fighting for his life. His biggest fight was no longer inside a boxing ring. It was for survival. This is where I think Prichard's story becomes bigger than boxing, because Prichard didn't simply disappear after his injury. His parents didn't walk away. They didn't abandon their son when his life became difficult. They stayed, they fought, they advocated, they cared for him. They continued to believe in him. For years, his family shared his journey and showed the world that Prichard was still there. That is something that deserves to be remembered. Because sometimes people look at a tragedy and only remember the moment it happened. But Prichard's story wasn't just October 17, 2015. His story was everything that came afterward: the rehabilitation, the therapy, the setbacks, the small victories, the long days, the difficult nights, the years of care. And through all of it, his parents were there. I think one of the most powerful parts of Prichard's story is the dedication of his parents. They didn't get the son they expected to have after that night, but they never stopped treating him like their son. They continued to care for him. They continued to fight for him. They continued to love him. And they continued to give Prichard a voice when he couldn't speak for himself. That's what makes his story so powerful. Because Prichard's legacy isn't only about what happened to him, it's also about the people who refused to let him be forgotten. His parents kept his name alive. They kept his story alive. And they showed what unconditional love can look like when life takes an unexpected turn. Prichard Colon will always be remembered as a boxer, but I believe his legacy is much bigger than his boxing record. His story has become part of the conversation about fighter safety, about protecting boxers, about recognizing dangerous blows, about referees, doctors, corners, and everyone responsible for fighter safety. But there's another part of his legacy that shouldn't be overlooked. Prichard became a symbol of resilience. He became a reminder that a person's worth isn't determined by what they can accomplish inside a ring. Before the injury, Prichard was a boxer. After the injury, he was still Prichard. Still a son, still loved, still remembered, still important. Boxing is a beautiful sport, but it's also a dangerous sport. Every time a fighter walks through those ropes, they are putting their health on the line. That's why Prichard's story should never simply be used as a piece of boxing trivia. We should remember what happened. We should learn from it. We should continue talking about fighter safety. And we should remember that behind every fighter is a family, a mother, a father, a spouse, children, friends, people who have to live with the consequences long after the crowd goes home. Richard and Nieves, I can't pretend to know what the last 11 years have been like for you, but I can say this: the world saw your dedication. You never left Prichard behind. You stood beside him through one of the most unimaginable situations a family could experience. You continued to love him. You continued to care for him. And you made sure people remembered the person behind the tragedy. That's something that deserves respect. Prichard, you were a boxer. You were a son. You were a fighter. And you became a symbol of strength in a way you never could have imagined. Your professional boxing career ended far too soon, but your story didn't end when you left that ring. Your story continued for another 11 years. And now, even though you're gone, your story continues. It continues through your family, through the people who prayed for you, through the people you who followed your journey, through the fighters who will hopefully be safer because of what happened to you, and through everyone who refused to forget your name. So today, on Miguelito To Toe, I don't want to remember Prichard Colon only for the tragedy. I want to remember Prichard, the fighter, the young man who dreamed, the young man who fought, the son who was loved, and the man whose story touched people around the world. Rest peacefully, Prichard Digget Colon. May your family find peace. May your parents know that their son will never be forgotten. And may boxing never forget what your story taught us. This episode is dedicated to you. Rest in peace, Prichard. On Miguel. This is Miguelito To Toe. Until next time, keep your hands up, protect yourself, and respect the sport.